Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Yoon, and today's video will be my November wrap-up. This one will be not super in-depth and not very well edited because I do want to get this video out, but I don't think I have the time to dedicate a lot of time to edit, so sorry about that. But I read 4 books, well 5 if I can count graphic novels, and 7 if I can count manga, and 11 if I can count rereads of mangas. So we'll say I read 4 to 11 books this month, and I will start off with the shorter stories like mangas and the graphic novels. So first of all, I read Garlic and the Vampire by Brie Paulson. I'm rating this a 3. It was really cute drawings, a really cute story, but it was a very, I think maybe because it's middle grade and a graphic novel, it just felt kind of unfulfilling. Like, it didn't feel satisfactory. Where's my other ginkgo? Oh, it just didn't feel very satisfactory in both like the story and like the lesson it was wanting to give, and just the length. It was very short to like, it was too short to be able to really enjoy and like, what's the word, appreciate the lesson of the story. I hate celery, he sucks. But the next things I reread Play It Cool Guys, all 4 volumes. Again, top tier comfort manga, 5 out of 5 for each and every one of them. I am desperately waiting for the 5th volume announcement to come out, and I really hope it comes out for December. And yeah, highly recommend. Once again, I did film a manga reading vlog, so keep an eye out for that, like late December or early January. And let's get this out of the way. I also read volume 4 of this series and volume 4 of Tokyo Aliens. Again, these 2 are in the manga reading vlog, so keep an eye out for that. I really enjoyed it. This one still super funny. Definitely funnier than the 3rd volume, and it's starting to pick up in like the overall plot, because somebody enters the story, which really like is amping up the just like the plot in general. And then Tokyo Aliens volume 4, this one is pretty intense. One character has become extremely suspicious that I think he's kind of the reason for a death that has occurred in the beginning of the story. And yeah, he is just so freaking suspicious. I am so nervous to see what role he really played. He is definitely the character you never really know their motivations of, and like that mysterious mentor role, I guess, character. And the next, finally, for like books, the first book I read in November that I can remember the order of was I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. 5 out of 5. Amazing memoir, amazingly written. There are a lot of things that can be triggering, so I do suggest, I highly recommend you guys look it up. But it's just so good, and I feel like it definitely could have been darker, especially with what Jeanette McCurdy like went through in her life. But I think the way she was able to write it in a humorous and kind of lighthearted way definitely did help. But personally for me, just the content itself was just so horrifying. I personally did not find myself laughing a lot, but I do think I would have been a lot more horrified had it been given to me like without Jeanette McCurdy's humor. And yeah, it was just so well written, and it was just really eye-opening. And yeah, highly recommend you guys read this book. And next off, I read Strike the Zither, which I also filmed the reading vlog, which again will be coming out later. But this is Strike the Zither by Yoon. I rated this a 5 out of 5 because even though I'm not like super obsessed about it like I am with like The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea, for example, I truly appreciate and am impressed by the story and just the plotting and the characters and just the things Yoon did in her story, because it's just so crazy. Like the twists the plot took were just so wild but so entertaining and so good, and the whole like backstabbing and the planning from the strategist is just so crazy. And the ending of the book, I need volume 2 immediately. Like the way the last chapter, oh my gosh, remembering it now is just working me up. But this book, so I realized as I was fangirling about just everything, I did not say what the book is about, but before I get into what the book is about, I also wanted to say about the character. I'm normally not really into the type of character that Zephyr is, because normally these kinds of characters in like webtoons tend to be villainous or antagonistic, so obviously the characteristics I associate them with annoying or just a pain in the butt characters. But while Zephyr is arrogant, I do actually find her very charming, and she did make me chuckle just because she's like, you know, when you like laugh at somebody because it's kind of like a cute thing they're doing. So she was definitely a character I did warm up to and I really like. And yeah, so what is Strike the Zither about? Let me do my best. I know it's a Three Kingdoms feminist retelling. Maybe more accurate is like a loose feminist retelling of the Three Kingdoms, in which all the characters, like the main characters from the Three Kingdoms, have been gender bent into girls, and we follow the years 414, and there are three or four factions that are currently basically fighting for the throne. One of them is the strongest because that faction technically is controlling the Empress, who is a puppet Empress. So the other 2 to 3 factions are fighting in order to take over the throne. And our main character, Zephyr, is the strategist for one of the factions. And the story starts when she infiltrates the camp of the strongest faction that's puppeteering the Empress, and that's where we go on from there. Not a good summary, I realize, but one thing, I don't really remember what happens, and 2, I'm gonna end up going too much into detail and I don't really want to do that. But yeah, honestly, the twists the plot took were so unexpected, but it made the book so much wilder and so much tense to read. So many things happened, oh my gosh. Like I cannot wait for volume 2, like for real. And then the next and last 2 books I read are part of a series, and the series is called the Scum Villains Self-Saving System by, and this is butchering because I've never heard how to pronounce their name out loud, but it's Mo Xiang Tong Shu. But basically this series, well, it's technically one whole novel, but the official translation like split it into volumes. So we follow a character originally called Shen Yuan, who kind of dies as he curses out the ending to a novel called The Proud and Mortal Demon Way, which is called a male stallion novel. And however, through the cursing, he kind of triggers this system that sends him into the body of the scum villain in the story, who was Shen Qingqiu. And he now has to act in character but also fill in the plot holes, fill in like make characters more, like fill them out some more, and then but still make the plot progress the same way in order to let the protagonist like become who, like fulfill his true potential. But obviously he doesn't want to die of the fate of the original villain because it's horrifying. So he's trying to work things out in a way that does fulfill what he needs to do, but also keep him alive. And that's basically what happens in the story. It is a gay Chinese, technically it's a gay Chinese martial arts fantasy book. So obviously, like, I think you can assume what happens instead, because instead of the original ending of the protagonist, you know. I don't want to say it out loud in case it is a spoiler, but if you picking up what I'm putting down, then I think you know. But so that's it, and honestly 5 out of 5 for this one and 4 out of 5 for this one, because it's so freaking funny, like, oh my god. Okay, so as I was saying before I got interrupted with a phone call, this series is seriously so funny. Oh my gosh, like, it's the first time in which my funny tabs for annotations, let's see, I don't think it's focusing. It's the first time in which my funny tabs for annotation ran out so much faster than any of my other colors for 2 packs. For 2 packs in a row, okay? Like, it's so funny, and it's not, it might not be like extremely funny, but it's consistently funny, and that just makes the overall experience so much fun to read. I will say, if you are interested in reading it, I would not recommend it if you are not good with queasy or like graphic descriptions of violence, but also descriptions of kind of, how would I say, just like icky imagery, I guess. Because there's one scene, I'm not gonna describe it, but the main character does say it's a good thing he doesn't have trypophobia, so that could, if that's kind of triggering, I wouldn't recommend it. And there's a lot of this kind of like descriptions of creepy slash icky, this seems mean, but like genuinely like icky looking creatures, or just instances of like a ghost or a demon. So if you're not good with violence or just queasy kind of, yeah, like icky descriptions of things, I would not recommend it. Like, I actually did gag several times through the book just because the description of that was just but so I did gag at some points throughout the book because it really was just that nasty, that nauseating a little bit. So I do recommend that. First book, I loved it, absolutely amazing. Second book is when it starts getting really crazy. Like, I read a comment that said book 3 is wild, but I was like, book 2 is pretty wild on its own. Like, it's definitely so much different than book 1. Like, book 1 is lighthearted, it's funny, you know, only the occasional fight scenes or gross encounters with ghosts, monsters, or demons. Book 2 takes such a crazy turn. I'm kind of scared to read book 3. But yeah, so something happens at the end of book 1, or like a little bit before the end of book 1, that we kind of see the repercussions of it and the aftermath of it in book 2. And then something happens in book 2 that makes the rest of book 2 so freaking crazy. And yeah, so this one is definitely not as funny to read, and there's some questionable things happening here that make it a little bit like I don't know how to feel in a sense. So 4 out of 5. Still funny though. Shen Qingchu is an amazing narrator. He is so funny. His inner monologue and just the way he looks at what's going on is so funny. So I do recommend the series, but I will say proceed with caution. And yeah, that is it for what I read this month, plus obviously this. I'm actually pretty proud of myself because this is the first time in a while since I've been able to read so much. And yeah, I actually didn't realize I had read this much until I started pulling things out. And yeah, so that was it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope like you guys have been doing okay. You've been doing great. I hope, like, for those of you who are in school, that finals will not get you down, is not getting you down, and that we can get through this, because we need to. We need to get through this. And yeah, so also not much of a life update, just cause like my life is just finals and research and reading and all that. But it's been really great talking to you guys again, and I really enjoyed this time. I'm so looking forward to the start of winter break when I can start making videos again and just start making more for you guys and all of that. But yeah, again, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Oh, do let me know how your November month went, if you had any favorite books, if you had any hated books, which I do love to hear about that stuff too. And yeah, I will see you guys next time. Bye.